Hello everyone and welcome to my nerdy little corner of the internet. I am back after a much needed break. So, did I miss anything this past week? Well, the Lorcana rules, as well as a bunch of other information, has been revealed, and there are several great content creators that have already made rules and gameplay videos, and so I'll simply link them down below. Today we're going to go on a different path. Today we are going to enter the world of probabilities and distributions. That's right. This Lorcana video is about math. I love math. I have a bachelor's degree in actuarial sciences and statistics. I have been working with data since the young age of 10, and I was even a statistician for my college's women's basketball team and actually helped them make it to the national championship my senior year. All that to say, I feel like I'm qualified to enter this subject in terms of content creation and statistical analysis of this game. With all of that out of the way, today we're going to answer the question, how many flourishes should I have in my deck? For those who don't know, in Disney Lorcana, we start off with 7 cards in our opening hand, and there are cards with a flourish around the cost of the card. That flourish means that we are able to turn that card into an ink inside our inkwell. The resource system in Lorcana is really cool, as it allows multiple decisions for each card and can make the chances of you having too much or too few resources quite unlikely. It's unlikely, that is, if you are able to build your deck appropriately and with proper understanding of probability distribution. The question I stated before is a bit too vague for statistics, so I'm going to put it into more detail so we can properly use statistics to solve our question. We want to find the minimum number of cards with a flourish we should have in our 60 card deck if we wish to have at least X cards with a flourish in our opening hand consistently. By consistently, I mean we have a 95% confidence that we reach our goal. When it comes to drawing cards from a deck, the probability distribution that we use in this is hypergeometric distribution. Say we want at least 4 cards that have a flourish in our opening hand. We can look at the probability of each possible number of flourishes in hand for each number of flourishes in the deck, like this. While this chart is helpful, it only tells us the probability of having 4 flourishes in our deck, not at least 4. So we're going to have to go deeper into hypergeometric distributions to get what we are looking for. Let's take this step by step. Let's start with a single situation. Let's start with, I want to have at least 4 flourishes in my opening hand. What is the probability of me having that with 35 flourishes in my deck? We can do this by doing a continuous distribution function of 0 to 3, meaning we are summing up the probabilities of us having 0, 1, and 2, and 3 cards in our opening hand. Then we subtract that from 1, meaning we are now having the probability of 4 or greater number of flourishes in our hand, which is what we want to find out. Look, we have found an answer here. If we want at least 4 flourishes in our opening hand, we might want a good bit more, right? Since the probability is a bit too low for our preference. But there is another rule in Lorcana that we need to keep in mind, and that is the mulligan rules. In Lorcana, if you do not like the cards in your hand, you may put any number of them from your hand onto the bottom of your deck and draw that many new ones, then shuffle your deck. This helps increase the efficiency of your deck, and thus we don't need that many flourishes if we want to gamble a little bit in our deck. As cards without a flourish are expected to be a bit more powerful, we want to see how many we can get away with in our deck. So what do we do now? Well, let's go back to finding the probability of having 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 flourishes in our starting 7 when we have 35 flourishes in our deck, like this. So we want to have at least 4 flourishes in our opening hand, so we will add up the probabilities of having 4, 5, 6, and 7 flourishes in our first 7, and add those all up and keep that number to the side. Now, let's head over to the ones where we need to mulligan, such as the situations where we draw 0, 1, 2, and 3 flourishes in our starting 7. What we are going to do now is we're going to look at each of these situations and create another hypergeometric function such that we are drawing a new number of cards equal to 7 minus the number of flourishes that we had in our first 7. For example, let's look at the situation where we have 0 cards in our first hand. We already have the probability of drawing 0 flourishes in our opening hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all 7 of these cards to the bottom of our deck and draw a new 7 so that we can get at least 4, hopefully. To find the probability of that, we do another hypergeometric distribution where our population is 53, we draw 7 new cards, and the number of successes in our population are still the same, and so we come out with this probability. Now we do the same thing for drawing 1 in our opening hand, then 2, and then finally 3. Now we have the probabilities of each single situation, and for the probabilities that we need to mulligan, we know the conditional probability of each of these situations, multiply it by the probability of the first situation, and now we have our main probabilities. Add these all up, and that is our probability of getting 4 plus flourishes in our starting hand when we have 35 flourishes in our deck. This is a very high percentage, and we'd be really happy to get 35 flourishes in my deck if I wanted to have 4 flourishes in my opening hand. Now that we have this for a single situation of X cards in your opening hand that you want and the number of flourishes in your deck, now let's stretch this out for every possible number of cards you want in your opening hand and every possible number of cards that have flourishes in your deck. Now this is a big table, and so I just put this all into this fancy chart here, and as you can see there's a bar at the 95% line. That's the bar that we want to reach. As you can see, a good number of the lines here go up past the bar at about the 30 to 35 flourish mark. With this data, I have found that the good ratio is about 2/3 of your deck should be flourishing or ramping in some way, shape, or form. Whether that be cards like One Jump Ahead, which put cards from the top of your deck into your inkwell, or cards that just turn into inkwells themselves. A little bit less, and you're starting to risk situations where you do not have enough ink to play your more expensive cards. And while it's not as big of a deal, if you have too many cards that generate resources, you might be behind in power compared to other players who have optimized their resources within their deck. So that answers the question, how many flourishes should I have in my deck? Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe so that I can make more of these. Please comment below on what other mathematical questions you have for Lorcana and TCGs in general. Thank you. Goodbye.